What up, guys? Another Adonis review. Today I thought I would do 2018 God of War in celebration of God of War Ragnarok, which is coming out here in the next, I don't know, few days. So I'm all jazzed up and ready for that shit. So I thought we'd discuss the first one. If you haven't played it, and you're thinking if you should play it before you play the first, the second one, or if you think you should skip it and just play the second one. If you're thinking, is it worth playing a game from over 4 years ago? How's it holding up? I feel like, if you could just look at the footage here, you'd probably tell that this game holds up. And, I say it in a lot of my videos that games 2017 and out basically hit their top tier of like how good a game could look. We're at that point, we're just smoothing the edges and everything, kind of just as a smoother, better processed game with, little areas being betterly smoothed out nowadays. But as far as graphics go, once 2017 hit, we basically hit the top tier of graphics, that we can get. Obviously, it can go a little bit better, as I always say, but you're kind of looking at the best that you can expect. And God of War is the best example of that. It's a fantastic looking game, and I'll break it down into a few areas with my minor gripes of it. But I guess the first thing I'll say is, if you are wondering if you should play God of War before you play God of War 2, if you need to play it, I'd say 100% yes. It 100% ties into God of War 2. The story is, going to 100% be way more understanding if you know what's going on. It's 100% something you should play, and it's going to connect. Even so, a few years are going to pass. When you get into God of War Ragnarok, it's 100% connected. Now, if you talk about, do you need to play the God of Wars that came before, right? There's, the first original trilogy, God of War 1, 2, and 3. Then there's, a few, there's an extension they made as well. And there is a few PSP games they've made as well. Do you need to play those? No, they don't directly tie into it. It does help to get into the general lore of, what he went through before he got to the Viking area. But, it's not really going to fully tie in. But those are games that are fantastic that you should always play. The first trilogy is amazing. I do hope that one day they create a remastered version like they did with Final Fantasy VII and whatnot. They're sitting out here fucking making the fucking remix of fucking Final Fantasy of The Last of Us, which came out in 2014, which still holds up. Not God of War 1, just came out in 2006. Come on. Anyways, quickly let's go out through this and kind of finish what I'm trying to say. The positives about God of War, right? It's overall a fantastic game. The fucking graphics look phenomenal. Definitely highest tier graphics. I guess I'll move on to that later. Graphics fantastic. The gameplay is fantastic. The mechanics they make are great. They have adapted, if you play the original God of Wars but haven't played this one. The first ones were kind of much farther out. The third person was a much farther out perspective. This one's much closer behind the back perspective. So it allows you to see a lot more of that detail. But the overall aesthetics, work out perfectly. Your main weapon in this game is the axe, which basically works as Thor's hammer, where you can throw it and call it back to yourself. I don't think it has the properties where you can't be lifted up unless you're fucking worthy, but it still kind of has the same mechanics. This compared to the other God of Wars. The other God of Wars were a much more linear path where you just kind of did what you had to do and solved little puzzles and, fought people, and that's kind of how it worked. This one is a mix between open world and not really open world, but it allows exploration. You can kind of go to certain places and go look around and find things that will kind of upgrade you. They've added an element of RPG where you can upgrade weapons and shit, slightly, but I feel like it's kind of a waste, since there's just not that much you can really do. They should have just kind of kept it more simple. I've heard that the new Ragnarok is going to expand on that and add, more of an open world. Of course, still not fully open world. But definitely give you more areas than this did. But this still give you it was a pretty nice taste, where it didn't just fucking blow your mind and give you, huge area to look through, which might have been too much. I feel like it gave you just enough. Enough of where you can go explore stuff, find new things, but not go, not be kind of blindsided by a thousand new things to do and fucking, which would be too much, especially since we're not used to that with God of War. So I think the way they're kind of increasing it, I think if it ever was just an open world game, it's just not how it should be faced. The thing I also appreciate is that God of War used to be always like 5 to 8 hour games. There are things that you could knock out if you really felt like, all in one sitting. Yeah, you'd have to have a lot of free time, but you could do it pretty easily. Now they've spanned, I think this God of War goes anywhere from 15 to 25 hours, depending on how serious you take it. So that's nice. It's definitely a good chunk of change when it comes to playback value, because games that are 8 hours now are fucking rip off. That's just, they should deliver more. With that being said as well, the biggest gripe I have with the game probably just goes into its fucking lack of diversity when it comes into the fighting people. You'll hear it if you watch other reviews, but the fucking, you basically fight like this big giant troll, just shaded differently. It reminds me of the Grandma's Boy joke where they're like, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll, to save space and, make a new enemy, we'll just, make the elves blue instead of, green, and then there'll be trolls. They're like, genius, that saves so much space. And that's kind of what they did for this fucking game. They just fucking made the troll different colors and shit, and that's how they fucking made the characters. That's how they adapted it to fucking make space for different characters. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's that much harder to make diverse characters. I do hear good things about the new one, that they have added a wide variety of different people to fight, so that's awesome. I'm excited for that. But that is my biggest gripe with this game. The story in this game is fantastic. It's a touching story, very well done. The only negative I'd really say about the story, and is that the kid does get annoying at certain parts where he finally gets full of himself, and you're just like, shut the fuck up. But that could have been done purposely. Kids can be annoying. I get it. So fucking who knows? But that's probably the only big bummer about the story, is just the fucking Atreus being a fucking little bitch. But we wouldn't get boy, come here, if that wasn't the case. So oh well. It's a great story, great graphics. A good amount of side stuff to do where it doesn't bog you down, but you still get a good amount of hours to play. Repetitive characters is the only unfortunate thing. And I guess they could add a few more weapons to the thing. That was one of the cool things in the past, that you can get wings and fly. Or, there was a time where you got like a Zeus' sword or whatever. That was fucking sick as fuck. You got there was a barbarian hammer you got. There's a spear at one point. There's a bunch of different weapons they used to have. And that was kind of a cool side thing that, they added to it. And they didn't do that. If they would have added maybe one more weapon, it would have been a nice little add-in. But this game is, it's a 10 out of 10. And I hear that God of War Ragnarok's only going to be better. I can't wait to play that day one. And really experience, this game that's supposed to be, a great thing. Because God of War, the thing you can respect for every God of War game that's ever came out, is that it's always been AAA, amazing graphics, and they've always been great at delivering it, in a due amount of time. It's not like fucking Final Fantasy, where they fucking... they're put in development hell for fucking 10 years. Same thing with Kingdom Hearts. Same thing with Cyberpunk. Where they over-promised and under-delivered, basically. And that's not what God of War does. God of War, delivers a high-quality game, and they deliver it on time. And we all know what we're gonna get, and we were happy with it. And they always shoot for a little bit better, and that's what you got to appreciate. So it's a fantastic game. You should for sure play it before. PlayStation allows you, if you have PlayStation Plus, I think you have to have a PS5, I'm not sure, but they give it to you free. You can always find it typically for pretty cheap, under $20 nowadays, which is a fantastic deal for a fantastic game. So it's something very easily for you to get. Of course, if you have Xbox, you can never play it because Xbox has terrible exclusive deals, and it makes me cry, and they suck. As of now. Maybe one day, fucking them and Bethesda will get their shit together and give us something fucking awesome. But until then, it's a PlayStation exclusive, of course. It's a must-play game. You should play it before. Get it in quick. and it doesn't miss a beat. I guarantee you, playing this to that, you won't even notice the difference. I mean, I hope there's a bit difference. It's the only negative I have to say. The last negative, I guess, is that this isn't a PS5 game. They haven't upgraded it all for the PS5. I mean, it still holds up great. Most games, I watched a side-by-side of fucking Uncharted, not Uncharted, of God of War Ragnarok, PS4 to PS5 version, and they look the same. They should never even showed it because it just made me bummed out how there's no negative. I wish they would have left the PS4 behind and just fully went into the future of the PS5. I feel like we're at that time where they should do it, and we should be fully pushed into it. So hopefully they will sometime soon, because I'd love to see what the difference would be if a PS4 couldn't handle it. I guess we'd have Cyberpunk, but what would it look like for God of War, I wonder. But yeah, I don't think you'll see a gigantic difference graphic-wise, so it's not like, you're going to be like, wow, this looks like old and shit. It's going to look great no matter how you cut it. But there is no PS5 version of it, which is a bummer. I'd like to see them increase it or add ray tracing, whatever the fuck you get it by the PS5 version. It'd be great, but oh well. At least they don't do what Xbox does, where Xbox makes everything a Series X game, so you can't have it on your hard drive and use it. Even so, it's a fucking Dead by Daylight or something, and fucking graphics suck, and you could easily play the Series X version of a Dead by Daylight off a hard drive. They just want you to buy their own hard drive. This fucking Xbox is greedy, and I hate them. As of now. So, hope that helps. You figure out if this is worth it for you. It is. Play it before you play Ragnarok, then play Ragnarok. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. Thanks, guys. Later.